This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, time to talk a little NFL and Miami Dolphins. And, boy, we got some news today with the Miami Dolphins, obviously with Teron Armstead. Matt Verderame joining us from Sports Illustrated. Make sure you call our friends from Cutter's Edge Pro. Call, of course, Will and Mike. They know how to get it done anywhere in South Florida, folks. They've got nearly 70 trucks. And when we talk about landscaping, outdoor lighting, irrigation, artificial turf, I've got that in my backyard. For all my dogs, it is a blessing. Go to cuttersedgepro.com and go to their Instagram page so you can see a lot of their work. Let's get to Matt here. Matt, the news not good right now, man. Teron Armstead going down with the injury, and, you know, they showed him kind of walking off the field and then going into the trainer's room, and he had some crutches. And we'll show you the video there. You can see the video there of Teron Armstead going in with crutches. So news is not good with Teron Armstead, the guy that they need in a big-time way.
Yeah, I mean, look, like, you know, we were talking before the show, any team needs their left tackle, but the Dolphins in particular, for a variety of reasons, really need Teron Armstead. Like, the rest of the line is in a better spot than it was a couple of years ago. It's still a line that without Armstead you don't feel great about. And you have this looming issue with Tua of concussions and health. Teron Armstead's on his blind side, and he's the best lineman they have. Like, you,
well, actually, no, he's a lefty, so it's not actually.
That's right. Yeah. So that's good news. See, I'm so used to saying the left tackle's blind. You're right. The right tackle's the blind side for Tua. Well, the left side still matters. Okay.
Yeah. No. And by the way, they've been lucky this year because Kendall Lamb has done. Like, I think he should start at right tackle. Like, he's been terrific as his backup. And every time he gets reps, and he gets a lot of starters reps, dude, he does really well. Kendall Lamb rarely gets beaten. And so a lot of us have kind of, like, they weren't even ready for this last year. They didn't have anybody. This time, they've got a guy that so far has actually looked pretty damn good overall. So at least they have something there. They didn't have any hope last year, Matt. You know what I'm saying? So that's like the little sliver of hope that you do have there if this is a long-term injury.
Yeah, and look, you hope it's one of those things that looks worse than it actually is, and he's back in a few weeks and everything's okay, and, you know, okay, fine. You know, week one is the Chargers. It's Mac and it's Bosa, right? I mean, it's a lineup that you've got to deal with and contend with off the edge. Armstead is a critical piece, and the Dolphins already dealing with a big injury on the defensive side of the ball with Jalen Ramsey. You don't want to have it on the offensive side, especially on the line when you're trying to take care of Tua. Look, you don't know, because sometimes things look benign and they're really bad. And sometimes things look really bad and the guy's out for a week. So you just don't know. Hopefully he's back sooner rather than later. But the Dolphins really, look, they need him. He's a huge critical piece on that offense.
Yeah, they need him in a big-time way. Hopefully he'll be able to get through it. Now, here's the thing about all of this. Dude, this is a disease everywhere. Everywhere, except Kansas City, San Francisco, and Philadelphia, maybe, right? Your team doesn't have, right? They fixed it last year. They're still in there. They kept all 5 guys, right? So they're intact. Like, there's like maybe 3-4 teams in the entire league that can say, yeah, we're good with our starting 5.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
I mean,
everyone else, like, you know, I'm watching Aaron Rodgers and what's going on with the Jets, and they've got a couple of, you know, holes in the dike there. You know, their line is a sieve at times, and it's been a problem for them. It's a problem for Buffalo too. You look around the league, most of the league has a spot or two at least that they're super concerned about.
Yeah, look, there's definitely a shortage of quality offensive line, and I think a lot of that's because of the way the college game's played. The college game doesn't lend itself to really learning how to pass block because it's just spread offenses and the ball's out. You don't really have to learn how to
block it or run block it. You don't even know what a road grader
because
is.
It's all just RPOs, and you're kind of right. I mean, you as an offensive lineman, like 25 years ago, you were way more prepared to come in and play in the NFL. And it was the opposite with quarterbacks. Quarterbacks in college, except for very rare instances, were not ready and had to sit. Now, you can come in as a rookie quarterback and at least be proficient, where that just usually was not the case years ago. I think, you mentioned some of these teams, even the Niners this year. I mean, McGlinchey, he goes to Denver, right? So you have that right tackle spot that's in flux. The Chiefs switched out both their tackles. Orlando Brown goes to Cincinnati. Andrew Wiley goes to Washington. They brought in Juwan Taylor. They brought in Donovan Smith. You look at, but to your point, look around the league. Look at the Colts. The Colts were a dominant offensive line for years. They gave up the most sacks in football last year. It just instantly fell apart. And you're right about the Jets, and that's the last point I want to make in this. Nobody ever brings that up about the Jets. Everybody talks about all this talent they have. They can't block anybody. That has been this.
And if you can't block, how does Calf Rogers escape?
No, it doesn't. Listen,
I grew up with Buck Rogers from the 25th century.
Yes.
Now it's Calf Rogers. So how does Calf Rogers escape? Because I know he just injured his good calf, by the way. Yes. They wanted to point out to us good calf, not his bad calf, his good calf. So if you got two bad calves, how does Calf Rogers escape bad lines, by the way? I'm just asking.
That is the biggest untold story I feel like this offseason. And there's been a little bit talked about it in the last couple of days because of Robert Saleh chewing out the Jets, and it was on Hard Knocks. Their offensive line is a mess. And nobody's talking about this because it's like, well, they have Aaron, they have Dalvin Cook, and they have Garrett Wilson. None of that matters if they can't block. None of it matters. Aaron Rodgers needs a really good offensive line at this point in his career. This is not when he was 27 years old and he'd just scramble right and throw a 50-yard bomb across his body. Okay?
Right.
You can do that when you're 27 and 28 and 30. He's going to be 40. The idea that Rodgers is just, it doesn't matter and it's fine. No. It really matters. It matters a lot. I will tell you the truth. I was shocked they didn't take an offensive tackle in the first round. I was shocked. I know they took McDonald. I'm not, and that has, by the way, that's not a knock on McDonald. He might be an excellent player. But to me, they had an overwhelming need at tackle. And I know it doesn't solve it long term. You could have signed Justin Houston for a year. You could have just went out and got Pierre Paul for a year. You know what I mean? You could have figured that out for a year. Their tackle situation, by the way, their interior is not great either. That's a mess. That's something that can derail a season. I am very curious to see how they look week 1 against Buffalo.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's and again, that's an issue all over the place. You know what I'm saying?
It is. Very few teams are stacked up front.
Yeah. Scout. I'm telling you, I know enough scouts that they hate scouting offensive linemen because it's just harder now than ever to figure out who they tell me basically they're guessing. They're guessing.
They have to. They basically are projecting off of traits, right? So they're looking at arm length, and they're looking at footwork, on plays that actually give them a real chance to look at footwork, and they're looking at measurables because most of these teams, you do have the occasional pro style offense. And by the way, I think that's why Alabama turns out so many offensive linemen. They play a pro style offense. A lot of these teams, they go 5 wide, and they're in the gun. And it's a 3-step hitch, boom, out. You don't learn anything from that. You couldn't get beat on that if you tried. So it's very, very tough. And as you point out, and you're right, in the run game, there's no lead draws. And what are you doing? I mean, your quarterback's going to run a lot in college. And a lot of times if it's not that, it's just going to be a quick little hitter, and you're going to try to pop it, right? I mean, that's it. You're not running sweeps and counters very often in college football. You're just not. So
you see that in basketball now, guys fall through the cracks now, right? And the Heat obviously are really good at finding guys that fall through the cracks that don't get drafted. And why is that now? Because you got all these one and dones. You got the kids that don't even go to college and they go overseas and they don't develop. And so you're kind of guessing and you're trying to figure it out. And I guess the Heat might be a little better at guessing than most people. That guy's an NBA player. We'll make him an NBA player. But I think that's what's happening now with offensive linemen now too. They're falling through the cracks, and you're going to have to work harder in the NFL to find them. And Robert Jones last year was an undrafted guy, played guard most of the year for the Dolphins, did a good job, and is still there. And now this year, it's the Cotton kid, a former Alabama product, that is just shocking people at guard, and he's blowing people off the line. They're like, whoa, who is this guy? And I think that's kind of the next zone for the NFL now. They're going to do a lot of what basketball has had to do in order to find overall talent. But in their case, offensive lineman is a one that you're going to have to work a little harder to try to figure out and who the hell can play and who can't play, and who can be actually a two-way offensive lineman for you. You know what I mean? Because they do a lot of pass blocking, but they don't do a lot of road grading. And that's what you really have to figure out.
And so many plays in college, even in pass pro, they're just quick. There's very, look, we're going to get really nerdy for a second, but like part of the reason that it's like that is the hash marks are much wider in college football. And so the wide side of the field, like let's say you're on the right hash, to your left is like an ocean's worth of space. I mean, you can just, hey, we're gonna just go 3 wide to that side and throw. I mean, I don't care how good you are defensively. There's gonna be lanes, there's gonna be pockets, and if you got a decent offense on the other side of the ball, like they're gonna move the ball. In the NFL, hash marks, of course, are much tighter, so you don't have that amount of space. Like even if you're on one of the hashes, you don't have this gulf that you can just, hey, look, there's 40 yards to this side of that's why it always cracks you up in college when some poor kid's got to kick like a 30-yard field goal from a hash. The kids in like the stands trying to hit that thing. It's such an angle. It's ridiculous. And the pros were like that for years. They changed it in the 70s. But I think it's an underrated part of it. That's a huge part of the reason as to why, like, a lot of these offensive linemen, what do you have to do? Your quarterback's going to have a sprint out and just throw a quick 5-yard out. Okay. You don't have to do anything. As long as you don't give up a sack within a second, you're good. It's fine.
Yeah. You're pretty much going to get by. I'd love to spin it to Miami because, I know Chris Greer would be getting absolutely annihilated right now if this was the case. But it's funny how in San Francisco, you hear this week, well, Brock Purdy has to melt in the sun in order for him to lose the job.
Right.
And, translation, we fucked up with Trey Lance.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
And it's like you watch him. And by the way, I watched Anthony Richardson. You named him starter, bro. That guy's not accurate. That guy's going to get people killed, but that's fine. Whatever you want to do, go ahead. But I watched Trey Lance too. And my God, let's not dance around the fact that you traded 3 first-rounders and a 3rd-rounder for this guy. And he is terrible, dude. Yeah, whatever you talked him up and all that stuff. And you better hope that Brock Purdy wasn't a flash in the pan last year, that he doesn't get exposed, that everything's on tape now, because I know that if it was Chris Greer, even if he found Brock Purdy, right now they would be frying him because of the 3 first-rounders and the 3rd and Trey Lance sitting there. It's amazing to me. Is it because of the success overall of the Niners that the criticism for the Trey Lance pick isn't out there? Just wondering.
Yeah, I think it absolutely is. I mean, they've gone to 3 NFC title games in the last 4 years. And Shanahan, I have 2 minds on Shanahan. One is I honestly do believe offensively he's one of the best coaches in the last 20 years in football because they do so many things schematically. He's tremendous. On the other hand, he does not get near the criticism he deserves for some of the things that happen with that team. I mean, time management, they have weird in-game decisions. Like, for an example, and this ended up not mattering because they lost Purdy in the game. They would have gotten killed anyway. But in the NFC title game, I believe the game was scored was either the first or second drive of the game. I think it was the first Philadelphia. And it's a play where Hurts goes deep down the sideline to Devonta Smith. It was a 4th down, and he caught it, but he didn't catch it. Like, it clearly hit the ground. And Devonta Smith is running to the line, like frantically waving everybody to snap the ball. And Shanahan just stood there and let him do it. Like, it was very obvious Devonta Smith knew he didn't catch the football. And everybody just stood there and watched it happen. Now, I bring that up because I do think they get away with a lot of their missteps because they win, which is fine. Like, you have to win. That's the point of football. But how many GMs, John Lynch here, how many coaches, Kyle Shanahan, who has a lot of influence in that building, you trade 3 first-round picks and that guy's a complete disaster? I mean, you're normally fired. That's
Right.
if you said to me, what is the fire rate on that? It's 95%, like maybe higher than that.
Right.
I believe Purdy, by the way, is going to just be fine. I think he's going to be just a run of the mill. I watched every snap he had last year. He was fine. He's surrounded by unbelievable talent, which is great. They have that, fair enough. But like,
They do.
you
They
don't watch Purdy.
Perfect offense.
You don't watch Purdy and go, "Oh my God!" I mean, it's fine. It's fine. My question with Brock Purdy is, you're going to have a defense, I guarantee you, early in the season, that is going to say, "You are not throwing the ball underneath. You are not going to do it. If you're beating us, do it down the field." And for people who say, "Well, they have Deebo Samuel," Deebo Samuel has one 1,000-yard season in his career. Like, he's really talented, but like, make him do it. Make him constantly. I would take Kittle out of the game if I'm a defense as much as possible, and McCaffrey, and say, go ahead and beat me. Beat me outside the numbers, beat me down the field. They have been fortunate.
Beat me with your arm.
Right, exactly. You go ahead, man. You want to throw a 20-yard corner out? Go nuts. I'm going to make you do it every play. I just think with the 49ers, yes, look, they deserve to get off the hook in some regards because they've won a lot. But at the same point, like, that move was supposed to be the move that got them over the hump and win a whole bunch of Super, because they were in the Super Bowl down in Miami the year before they did that move. Like, that was supposed to be the thing that got them over the hump. Now you're sitting here talking, people are talking themselves into Sam Darnold. Like, how are we doing this still? Sam Darnold's been atrocious for years.
It's this love affair to have the mobile quarterback. And I get it that you want to have the mobile quarterback, but if the mobile quarterback isn't accurate,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, bro. That's why no mobile quarterback ends up winning a title, because until you become Steve Young accurate, you're not winning a title. And Lamar Jackson run like the wind. He's the greatest running quarterback in the history of mankind. What the fuck does that win you?
If you can't constantly win from the pocket, you lose. That's it.
That's right.
I mean, it's great if you're mobile, and that's something that you can add to your game. But, like, you've got to win in the pocket first. And I don't care how much the game of football changed. There are certain tenets of football that have been true since the dawn of the sport. And while early on in the 20s and 30s, you could just run. Since we've gotten into the modern age of football, the passing era of football, you've got to be able to win from the pot. Doesn't even mean necessarily have to be on script all the time, but you've got to be able to stand in there and throw the ball accurately and consistently. And to your point about Anthony Richardson, look, I was at Colts camp. That kid is the size of George Kittle. I mean, it's unbelievable how big he is. Strong, fast. And I will say, had a great pocket presence, but my concern with him is in high school, he was completing 52% of his passes. Right. In college, he was at like 55, I believe it was, for Florida. I mean, that's the number that typically doesn't go up. Josh Allen's the outlier. He's the guy who everybody always points to. I think Richardson is going to be a freak physically, and I think the acumen mentally is 100% there. But can he be accurate? That is the massive question with him.
Yeah, because I didn't see an accurate guy. The ball placement skills were just not there. And those are the things that I would always point out with Tannehill here. His ball placement skills were just terrible. He had no awareness in the pocket, those kind of things. It was just, and to me, those are qualities that you got to have in a quarterback. Yeah. You have to have accuracy, you have to have ball placement, and you have to have anticipatory skills, because there are times that you're going to be pressured and you have to throw to a spot, not a receiver, a spot. But the problem with the Cam Newtons and the Lamar Jacksons and the Anthony Richardsons of the world, they're so gifted, right, that they have this cannon that they always feel like they don't have to have any anticipatory skills. They can wait for the break. They can throw it and get it to the corner before, and they can. But the problem is the pressure's not going to allow you to do that all the time. And if you don't have the anticipatory skills, you're going to leave those plays on the field. Those are the plays that Tom Brady, those are the plays that Steve Young and even Tua and Breeze and Greasy and any of these guys, those are the plays that they take advantage of that you cannot, because You don't have the foresight to see that. You don't have the ball placement to see the skills to put that there. And that's the problem.
I would say that people who have never stood on an NFL field, which I've never been on the field for a game, obviously, but or the sideline, which I have stood on some sidelines. It honestly, like you always hear the expression, like it's like being on a freeway. It really, like it's like being on a freeway. Like I am always amazed when I'm sitting there watching up in the press box or watching on TV, or especially if I'm down on the sideline, like the immaculate ability you have to have as a quarterback. Those windows are milliseconds. I mean, if you're a touch late or you're a touch early, best case scenario, it's an incompletion. Worst case scenario, it's going the other direction.
Cycle you watch every week. Right. That guy sees things 10 feet ahead. That's why he's able to throw a no look. That's why he throws anticipatory passes, because he sees it. He also has the skill set too to wait late for a break if he has to. But brother, if you don't have that, you're not going to win in this league, dude. You're going to have to throw to spots. And to me, that's the part that those quarterbacks usually lack.
And it's the biggest separator. I think you're right. It's the biggest separator between the guys who are like truly the elite in the NFL right now, and then that middle class guys who aren't bad, but just guys who, like, if things don't go well, like I'll give it to me, the guy who's kind of represented that for the last decade is Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback and winning a lot of games, but Derek Carr is not going to create a lot of offense. Like if the picture is not the way the picture should be, it's a problem. Whereas the Burrows of the world, the Mahomeses of the world, the Allens of the world, like they can just go, okay, plan B, bang, out the door, right? And it's a 20-yard completion. And like Carr's, a lot of guys like that. Cousins is like that. Goff is like that. They're good players. But if you can muddy the picture as a defensive coordinator, and I guarantee you the Dolphins fans are going to see that this year of Fangio as a coordinator, because he is going to go into every game plan going, the first thing this guy can do, we're taking it out of his hands. Whatever it is. If he likes to go across the middle of the field, if he likes to check down, that's gone. And now you're going to have to play left-handed. Now, the real great quarterbacks, they can do it. But a lot of guys, 3/4 of the league, they can't do that. It's very, very hard. And that's why you see so many quick throws at the line of scrimmage, so many one-read throws. It's a rare trait. But when you have it, you are a team that's going to win a lot of games.
I'm with you there. What do you got going on SI so folks can check you out, my brother?
Yeah, so I have one more training camp tour stop on Tuesday. I'll go see the Packers. Been to 7 camps so far. I've seen 8 teams, Lions and Giants, at a joint practice up in Allen Park. You can check out my author page at SI by clicking on you can just Google my name in Sports Illustrated. You can click the link in my bio on Twitter. I did a feature for every team that I saw. I did a camp report. Really, I think a lot of good stuff in there is really interesting. And then, listen, I'll have a piece coming up here. I'll be ranking all 32 of the head coach quarterback combinations. And I'll tell you, I went through history. If you don't have an elite head coach or an elite quarterback, you pretty much have absolutely no shot to win a Super Bowl. I went and charted like how many Super Bowls have been won by Hall of Fame quarterbacks, Hall of Fame coaches. You can do it with just one, but you better have at least one, because if you don't, you're in bad shape. And so I went through and ranked them all out, and that'll be up next week. AFC quarterbacks, talking to people around the league, like, is this the best conference you've ever seen for quarterbacks? That'll be a feature. It's out in a few weeks, so there'll be plenty coming. Plus, top 100 players as we think they will look by the end of the year. So we're kind of looking into a crystal ball. What's the top 100 going to look like by the end of the season? That comes out 20 players every day next week.
Check it out, folks. And don't forget to call our friends at cuttersedgepro.com. That's cuttersedgepro.com, anywhere in South Florida. Take your home, take your business to the next level. When you add landscaping, you will also add value to your home. The value's home increases. The business's value also increases. Call our friends at Cutters Edge Pro, William Quigley, getting it done. And follow my man Matt on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Catch his work there at Sports Illustrated. Matt, as always, thank you, my brother. We will catch up next week.
Take care.